All right. Well, it looks like we're underway here in round number 2. Max Turner on your right playing 4-color Domain Zoo. We'll see if these new cards from the Domain side are good threats here. Can maybe punch through damage against Azorius control. Ryan Hayes opting for, that Solitude, Supreme Verdict, like build. And we're just going to see like a really slow, grindy game. And hopefully Ryan takes it down with those control cards, but it might be difficult with all these like really powerful domain threats.
So Max Turner actually playing a slightly different build of the Zoo deck. This is less aggressive, and he's going more for value from General Ferris, Rockerick, and Cascade cards. Got 4 copies of Shardless Agent, 4 of Bloodbraid Elf, cascading into removal spells like Lightning Helix, Lightning Bolt, Tribal Flames, as well as Territorial Kavu and Wrenn and 6. So this is more the mid-range multicolor Zoo strategy, not the low to the ground Wild Nicodle, Neshoba Brawler, and Stubborn Denial version.
Cool. So this one might be a little harder for Ryan, but I do believe the Supreme Verdict's still going to be a killer. We're going to play Island, and then we're going to end of turn play a Dress Down. Now, what this is going to do, it actually shuts off Territorial Kavu's pump ability, so it becomes a 0/0 and dies. Really sad.
Yeah, not a good matchup for Territorial Kavu here with these Dress Downs from Ryan Hayes. I believe they got a couple in the main. He and TJ Radizak playing the exact same 75. Yeah, 3 copies of Dress Down in the main, and even as the 4th in the sideboard.
Now, I want to point out what a cool play that was for Ryan. Not only is he aware of things like Stubborn Denial, but he's also making sure that any play on Max's turn is going to be invalidated on the enters of battlefield abilities with the Dress Down. And by doing it during his end step, he essentially kills the Territorial Kavu while playing around the Stubborn Denial and still gets the value on the opponent's turn.
Stops any more Kavus from coming down for at least a turn.
All right, we have a Teferi Time Raveler here. And we're going to see if Max wants to respond. I think probably had Lightning Bolt, but didn't want to cast it. And Teferi's going to bounce the Scion of Draco back to hand. And we're back Max's way. Let's see if he can put some pressure on. Teferi here doing a great job at stifling a lot of those cascade effects like Bloodbraid Elf, but the haste could potentially come down and kill it. Or just a Lightning Bolt could finish it off.
And there we do see the Bolt taking care of that Teferi, and there's a Cascader. Okay.
All right.
Now it is not this is not like, Crashing Footfalls is always going to come off the top.
Right.
Our Shardless Agent is instead a Dome You for 3 Scathe Zombies.
That's pretty good. 3 mana, deal you 3, make it 2/2. I'd play that in standard. All right, so we're back Ryan Hayes' way. We're at 14. We got to be careful with our fetches. And the Shardless Agent does represent a little bit more damage, but 2/2's not that scary. Here's the Bloodbraid Elf. Ryan is going to let the Cascade resolve, and we're going to maybe use a counterspell here. Finds, looks like a Lightning Helix, and that's going to go upstairs.
So a lot of burn here in Max Turner's list of Domain Zoo between Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix, and Tribal Flames.
Nice.
It's definitely something Ryan Hayes is going to have to be careful to play around, not use his life total as a resource too much. And yeah, there you see a counterspell being used on the Bloodbraid Elf. So Max Turner generating a little value here. These Cascade creatures always get a second card. All these 1-for-1s are going to leave you a little bit of value left over in the trade.
All right, well, we are fetching here after the attack. I'm curious if we're going to do anything, but it seems like we're not. Ryan going to fetch a tap Triumph. We're going to take 2 from the Shardless Agent. And then we're going to go back Ryan's way. Oh, no, we're going to get Domain during the attack step, and we're going to take care of the Shardless Agent with a 1-mana Leyline Binding. Heads up play from Ryan, and now gets to untap on a clean board.
Yeah, and you see there, Ryan really valuing keeping his life total high. He knows how much burn is in that deck. And so, yeah, Leyline Binding on a 2/2, not normally a play you like to make, but a necessary evil here to keep his head out of danger from these burn spells.
It's interesting that these cascade effects, not only are they sometimes double threats, but just being able to burn your opponent out with them means that, you can't just rely on spot removal to beat this deck.
Ooh, okay. Oh! I was going to say, Rogue's Command, not normally a great one here, but there is an enchantment. You could choose that mode. Target opponent sacrifices an enchantment, get another 2/2 back. I would imagine also going to be putting a +1/+1 counter on this Scion.
Yeah. So, Dromoka's Command, one of the coolest cards I've ever seen in my whole life. This was a standard all-star when Heroic was in standard. Tom Ross and myself played the heck out of that deck. Being able to put a counter on a creature triggered the heroic, and then fighting triggered a different creature's heroic. We used to do it with all sorts of stuff. You know, Seeker of the Way to fight and gain life was really cool. But it looks like we're going to, you know, stifle the aggression a little bit with the Solitude. We're going to eat the Scion of Draco.
Do that before the counter comes on, just in case the 1 point matters. And yeah, the Solitude at least going to be able to stymie these Shardless agents for a turn. So that gives Ryan Hayes some breathing room to maybe land a Planeswalker, some sort of card advantage here.
All right, so
taking control of this game.
Back Ryan's way. We have a white card in hand that I don't know what it is, but we just drew Hall of Heliod Generosity. We have Counterspell and I believe a couple Prismatic Endings. Normally Prismatic Ending is decent against these aggressive decks, but doesn't look that great against these 3-mana Shardless agents. You know, playing 1/4 removal against Shardless agents is kind of bad.
Interestingly, Ryan Hayes' Azorius control list, only 2 Planeswalkers, and they are 2 copies of Teferi Time Raveler. No Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, no Jason the Mind Sculptor. Says, I want to be playing at instant speed, and instead has 4 copies of Shark Typhoon and 4 Solitudes as the ways to close the game.
Yeah, but the Hall of Heliod Generosity is a huge part of the deck's win condition, because you can just essentially do nothing and then cycle Shark Typhoon, and then the next turn you put it back, and the turn after you cycle Shark Typhoon again, and you just keep doing that over and over until your opponent dies. It was a very powerful strategy for Stream Bean last night at FNM, and it looks like it could be pretty good for Ryan here if he's able to pick up one of those Shark Typhoons.
Yeah, definitely a very strong late game engine here that comes at a very low opportunity cost. Just that 1 copy of Hall of Heliod's Generosity. I also see a Hall of Storm Giants. It's another way to close the game. So,
all right, here comes Territorial Kavu, and Ryan here going to have a couple options. Could go Counterspell on the Kavu. That allows Solitude maybe to be able to attack and start gaining some life. Opted not to trade with the Shardless agent, so it looks like he does have plans on leveraging the Solitude's body for some pressure. So we'll see if he wants to burn a Counterspell here or what. Decides to let it go. In a turn, nothing. Untaps and draws.
Finds Supreme Verdict.
You think? That's probably not getting cast anytime soon, right? Looks like we're going to do some spot removal and crash to gain life. But Max has Lightning Helix at the ready to take it down. And Ryan's going to fight over it, valuing those 3 points of life very highly. And connects with the Solitude. We're going to go back Max Turner's way.
Interesting. Ryan really valuing the Solitude here. That lifelink, a little bit of pressure. So playing this control deck a little bit more aggressively.
Well, he's trying to get out of range of Tribal Flames, I think. You know, the burn spells at this point are the easiest way for Max to win. Ryan has, you know, a bunch of removal, Supreme Verdicts, Prismatic Endings, things like that. And just wants to make sure that is at least over 10 lives, so 2 Tribal Flames doesn't kill him.
There's a Leyline Binding on the Shardless agent. Now buys and casts Kahira, and this is a 2-turn clock at this point.
Yeah, and now that's an attack for 4. We're going to go up to 14, and we're going back Max's way.
Ryan Hayes trying to get this game over quickly.
I have no idea what that card is. Maybe a Rokerick?
That would be my guess.
Impossible to tell. All right, we're going back Ryan's way. Has Verdict. Has the option to Hall of Heliod Generosity on upkeep to put Leyline Binding back on top from the Dramoka's command, but is instead not going to do that. General Ferosh Rokerick, 3-mana, 3/1, hexproof for mono-colored, and whenever you cast a multicolor spell, you get a 4/4 red and white Golem. So a really powerful card. Interesting that Ryan... well, I guess it has protection from monocolor, so couldn't hit it with the Leyline Binding. But Max packs it in.
Could have gotten a Dress Down back to try to...
Okay.
I guess over 2 turns deal with it. But
well, you could also cast it during your instep again, right? And then any spell you draw this multicolor that's not an instant doesn't trigger the general.
Instead, the general not enough to stabilize the battlefield here, and Ryan Hayes taking game 1 in relatively quick fashion for a control deck.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, he got really aggressive with spot removal there and leveraged the body of the Solitude. That plus Kahira is a real clock. I've played quite a bit against blue-white control in various modern tournaments, and the Kahira Solitude combo is powerful. And it's something that the deck really utilizes with that companion, not only as a pitch elemental, you know, for the Solitude, but also just pumping, being a threat. It's actually pretty good. And Vigilance is realistic, you know, it's a real ability too.
Yeah, you know, this is with the addition of Solitude, these control decks can take a more aggressive posture, and Ryan really pushing that by even cutting those big planeswalkers that have been a staple of control decks for so or so many years. And so now we are going to check out sideboards. We'll start with Ryan Hayes, your Season 2 points leader, playing the Azorius control deck. I see one copy of Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. That's got to be for mill, maybe for control mirrors too. Mm-hmm. 2 copies of Orvar, the All Form. That's for creativity. The Kira Companion, 2 timely reinforcements, 2 Dovin's Veto, 3 copies of Hallowed Moonlight, the 4th Rest Down, a Rest in Peace, a Stony Silence, and 1 copy of Flame Blitz on the tiny little splash there. Normally you see things like Ketria Triome and Steam Vents in order to make your prismatic endings and leyline bindings better. But here, being able to cast a card to deal with opposing planeswalkers, we'll see if that comes up later in the tournament because it's certainly not good here.
All right, Ross. I need a serious time here. Have you ever cast Flame Blitz?
I have not.
Okay. I don't think that card has text. I have literally never seen anyone cast it. I've never seen it kill a planeswalker. I see people play it all the time. It's so rare that you have a card that is somewhat ubiquitously played that just has no effect on any game.
Well, Ryan's still putting in his board. Not a ton that I like here, to be honest. Hallowed Moonlight can stop some tokens from General Ferris.
Okay.
Maybe you want some timelies against the heavy burn deck. There's a couple I can see.
I like timely and reinforcements quite a bit. Yeah. Those burn spells are real.
But the 1/1s don't trade that well with what.
Well, 2 of them trade with a freaking Bloodbraid Elf or a Sharpness Agent really well. Okay.
Yeah, maybe you want those for that. Looking at Max Turner's sideboard, I see 2 copies of Hidetsugu Consumes All, 3 copies of Unmoored Ego, 3 Force of Vigor, 2 Path to Exile, 3 Leyline of Sanctity, and 2 Rest in Peace. I don't know if I like any of this.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but I don't think Max did any sideboarding. He was very hesitant to even reach for his sideboard when they were doing the deck look through. And then as he started thumbing through cards, I think he just decided to just stick with the main 60.
Yeah, nothing really going on in the sideboard here. So Max going to have to come back without much improvement, though being helped out here from at least 1 mulligan on Ryan Hayes' side in game 2.
Yeah, going down to 6 cards. He's keeping this one, it seems like. Thumbing what to put back. Maybe a Memory Deluge, and that's going to be the one. Has Counterspell in hand, Solitude.
I will say, I agree with Ryan's choice of Counterspell. The Tempest Counterspell is my favorite as well. I own a set.
I'm a big fan of the Mercadian Mask one. Little goblin-looking guy. They reprinted it for 6th edition, I think. The 6th edition one was the one I saw first, but I like the black border on masks on it better.
And Max Turner getting the party started here on turn 2 with a Territorial Kavu. Will Ryan Hayes, as in game 1, have the dress down to cleanly answer it?
Honestly, dress down killing Territorial Kavu is some BS. That's just so tilting. There's a reason why, Tarmogoyf has 1 static toughness, and it said you don't die to, garbage cards like that. They just shut off all abilities. All right, well, we're going to go back Max Turner's way. I'm curious if Ryan has an answer. I feel like if he did, he would have played it on the main phase to play around something like Stubborn Denial. But if it's just... Okay. Well, we're going to crash with a Kavu. That's going to exile the graveyard.
Domain already online, so that's a 5-point attack. See a Bloodbraid Elf in Max's hand.
It seems like a quick fetch, so maybe going to be Shardless Agent here and perhaps looking to deploy another threat onto the battlefield, but okay with, something like Tribal Flames or Lightning Helix off the top too.
Yeah, just get them dead.
I mean, you got to feel good crashing in with a Territorial Kavu on 3 and it just connects, right?
Oh, definitely. And yeah, that is a Shardless Agent. Max deploys it. Let's see what the Cascade hits. I like it when the Cascade isn't deterministic.
Yeah, it's more fun. Oh, well, it is deterministic.
Upstairs
is Tribal Flames. Big hot dog energy? Yeah, that's Glizzy Gang. Represents Spunky.
Okay, Tribal Flames connects. That's going to drop Ryan Hayes to 9, and there's 7 power on the battlefield. Ooh. Looks like, okay, and Hayes deciding to counterspell the Shardless Agent itself.
Pyrosaur says, I find it very absurd how serious everyone is, and yet in the right, third man is wearing a hot dog costume. He's right there. The hot dog man.
That's going to drop Ryan Hayes to 8. So if we can find an answer to this, Kavu is stable, but 1 hit puts him in range of any burn spell.
Yeah. Well.
Okay, well, there's a Prismatic Ending. That's a nice one.
Yep. That one's right off the top. Otherwise, that would have been dead last turn. So, Blood Strand going to be the play for Ryan. Let's see if Max can close it out.
Does Max have land 4 for this Bloodbird Elf? That's what I want to know.
That looks like a Temple Garden or a Hallowed Fountain. Maybe not, though.
That would be great at keeping the pressure on here. And if you hit another... Oh, okay, there's another Shardless Agent. That's pretty good, too. What is this going to hit? Upstairs.
Yeah. If Shardless Agent is deal 3 damage or more most of the time, that's pretty good.
Ryan Hayes going down to 5 from the bolt, fetching down to 4.
I don't want to build Team Burn. Yeah.
This is 5-color burn.
Yeah. The other colors don't matter, though, except for Tribal Flames. All right. Well, Ryan going to fetch down to 4 EOT, finding Hallowed Fountain. Interesting to find that over one of the Triumphs. Maybe has Triumph in hand, or maybe doesn't mind drawing a Triumph later to cycle it. Finds another Dress Down. That one not going to do much against the Shardless Agent.
Yeah, would have liked that one last turn to deal with the Kavu. Then we'd have the prismatic ending for the Agent.
All right, Shardless Agent comes in. Let's see if Ryan has an answer. We're going to cycle Shark Typhoon for 2. That's going to potentially create a blocker. Let's see if Max has some interaction here. It looks like we're going to go for a Leyline Binding on the token. All right, token down. Shark Typhoon draws a card. 2 damage in, and we're at 2. Does Max Turner have the burn spell? And it's Tribal Flames for lethal. Game number 3 coming up next.
Wow. Yeah, really not as powerful of a start there from Ryan Hayes, and you saw the power of the Cascade creatures. Just if you give me an inch, let me get in a little damage early.
Yep.
It's just Cascade creatures are gonna force you into the creature, but I'm also gonna just keep chipping into these burn spells that they hit. Eventually, you run out of life to play with.
All right, cool stuff from the Glizzy Gang there with this Territorial Kavu Zoo deck. All these Cascade effects just keep hitting burn spells, and you have to imagine if you're Ryan Hayes, you might think, like, maybe my easiest route to victory is that Solitude plan from game 1. You need some way to gain life kind of in a static nature over time and, you know, to sweat through these burn spells, but that's kind of tough to do because those burn spells can just target Solitude, you know?
And we saw him have he had a Solitude in his hand there in game 2, but never even got to the point where he could cast it.
Yeah, dead on turn 4.
On the battlefield.
GG. All right, players going to be maybe taking a look at their sideboards, shuffling up here for game number 3. While we're waiting on that, just want to say shout out to our sponsors. Ultimate Guard, a new sponsor for Apex Gaming, gave us a ton of product to give away. What's the thing called for first place again? It's a really cool box. I forgot the name of it. An Omni Hive box going to first place, and tons of other swag to our competitors here in the Apex Gaming Invitational. Also, shout out to Wings, etc. Grill and Pub. The brothers Huck do own multiple Wings, etc.'s, and they're great places to hang out and have fun and eat and drink and be merry. And damn if I ain't going to be merry tonight when I go to Wings, etc., man. I'm going to have a blast.
We're going to be tired.
Yeah, that's true, too.
We're bringing 10 rounds of modern action here. This is round 2, so we got 5 more rounds of Swiss after this, followed by our cut to the top 8 before we crown a Season 2 Invitational Champion.
All right, last but not least, shout out to G Fuel Energy Formula, sponsoring the Apex Gaming Invitational. We're here for game number 3 of round 2. Ryan Hayes leads with a Misty Rainforest. No play from either player. Max with a Bloodstained Mire and a pass back. Hayes going to fetch, likely a Triumph.
Yeah, not a lot of 1-mana plays in either of these decks, so both players can sort of freely fetch a Triumph on turn 1, which is what they want to do.
All right. Are you a Triumph truther? Do you think that all the Rafine's sanctuaries or whatever should just all say Triumph on them?
Yes, but I also dislike Triumphs, and I don't want them to exist.
Well, they're there, right? I like Solitude, but it exists, you know. I treat, you know, most things in life like a sealed deck. You get what you get, and then you just got to do the best of what you got. Right now we got a Modern full of really powerful pitch elementals, great mana, insane 1-drops, but that's what it is. That's what Modern is. It's high power, high interaction, and most people find that really fun.
Okay, Max Turner once again assembles Domain on turn 2, has a Territorial Kavu again, but this time Ryan Hayes has the Dress Down, instead decides to go with the Scion.
Now, Ryan has a couple ways to deal with this. Could burn a counterspell. I actually like burning counterspell here. But he's going to go get perfect mana with the Ketra Triumph, and then that's going to allow him to Leyline Binding in step. The Scion is not that scary. It's a 2-mana 4/4 flyer. That's like really powerful. The rest of the abilities not that devastating if you're a control deck, just because things like Vigilance, Lifelink, those are abilities that are much better against spot removal, creatures on the battlefield. And Ryan Hayes here with sweepers, counterspells, and things. Cyan's not that big a deal.
And here, as in game one, we're seeing a pretty big difference in this matchup between the play and draw.
Oh, end of turn, we're going to pitch a Force of Vigor here on Kavu. That's going to blow up the Leyline Binding and potentially bring back the Scion of Draco. Maybe Ryan wants to fight over this with a counterspell. I wouldn't be surprised. This is a clean 2-for-1.
Yeah, I gotta figure that's his best way to answer this. But
I mean, I would counter Scion of
Cascader,
Draco, right? Well, the Cascader, you're only countering half the Cascader anyway.
Yeah. He's giving it a long think.
All right, with 2 dress downs in hand as the only other cards, we're going to go for it.
Okay. That's a good trade for Ryan. He's just, wondering what's the worst that could happen on this turn.
Yeah.
See what Max has in store.
Honestly, I think the worst case scenario would be like Teferi Time Raveler.
You got to figure if Max is willing to go for that immediately and open himself up to the 2-for-1 against the counterspell, he's got a good follow.
No, that's certainly true, but it's also just a free 4/4 essentially, right? You're Force of Vigoring to turn it into a free 4/4, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head. This is maybe the worst case scenario. Charlotte's Agent into a 2-drop, but luckily for Ryan, he does have an answer for the Kavu in the name of Dress Down next turn.
Dress Down will clear that up, and then there's just a 2/2 on the battlefield, and unlike game 2, Ryan's life total pretty healthy here as he enters his 4th turn at 17, and it's all self-inflicted from these 3 fetch lands, so...
Yep.
Got to feel pretty good. He's kept the pressure off. He's getting into the mid game, and now draws another counterspell. So that's another solid answer for whatever threat Max Turner has left in his hand.
All right, I have to imagine we're going to see the instep here, but decides to pass the turn. I guess okay walking into Summer Denial because he has the backup Dress Down.
Yeah, these lists with the Cascaders don't play Stubborn Denial because cascading into it is
that makes sense.
poopy, as the kids would say.
They don't say that. You can't
they
make
do
up
if they're like
things
4
and then say that's what the kids say. If they're 4, so you're going with the literal kids instead of
yeah, the proverbial kids.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we hit a Bloodbraid into Charlotte's Agent.
This is a value.
Yeah, this is looking dicey.
And upstairs.
Yeah, that's gonna put Ryan down to 14, and we got a Bloodbraid, a Shardless, and a Territorial Kavu coming in.
Given how aggressively Ryan has used his counterspells, I expect we will see it on the Bloodbraid Elf. Okay, yeah, but said goes for the Dress Down first. Let me see my next card.
All right.
Okay, decides to save the counterspell.
The Dress Down actually shuts off the haste of the Bloodbraid Elf. I really like that from Ryan here. Heads up play. All right. We're going to draw 5th mana source. Do we have a Solitude? That's the big question
I think
now.
it's all lands, counterspell, and another Dress Down for Ryan Hayes. He really needs to find a Supreme Verdict at this point. That double Cascade for Max Turner was a doozy.
Yeah, now we have 7 power on the battlefield with Hayes just at 12 life and how the tides have turned. But one thing I want to note is that holding a counterspell for that turn or the previous turn would not have helped very much, right? So like he just needs something to be able to deal with a swarm of creatures. The double Cascade, like you said, was just really bad for him.
And Ryan Hayes, I said on turn 4, his life total is looking really good, and it is now turn 5, and he's at 5.
Right.
So this game changing in an instant.
All right, we're going to go instep Dress Down. He may be doing second main phase Dress Down. There's a lot of timing stuff, and if he has Solitude that he wants to main phase. Oh, Bolt You in response. Does he have the last
Helix,
burn spell? Okay, we're at 2. Okay, no kill spell.
2, and there's the verdict. And another counter spell. So with land 6, it looks like the Dress Down was end step. With an untapped land here, we can verdict with counter spell up, and Max Turner down to 1 card in hand. Can Ryan Turner stabilize this game? Has a fetch, so that'll bring him to 1 if he needs to use it.
Yeah, it doesn't want to use it, but can. All right, here's the Bloodbraid Elf. If this hits a burn spell, that's game. Territorial Kavu. So we can counterspell the Bloodbraid Elf and stay alive at 1 life.
But now we're out of Dress Down, so no answer to this Kavu right now. So that is still a threat.
Yeah. A lot of answers in the deck. We have Prismatic Ending, more Dress Downs, some spot removal, bounce spells. We got things. We got a lot of looks. Go back Ryan's way.
I guess the Kavu tramples, so just buying and playing here as a blocker isn't going to be good enough. Yeah. That's a land.
I think that's it. I think Ryan's dead. Gonna play that, and again, like you said,
It's probably not trample.
I'm pretty sure it has trample. It's a big scary guy. Look, Ryan's just playing to his outs.
Oh, no, it does not. Okay. Not that thing trampled. So
Okay.
we do have a chump blocker for a turn.
We're gonna chump it. Nice. All right, Ryan gets another look, and here's a written 6, and that's gonna minus and deal the left damage. And Max Turner takes down Ryan Hayes, #1 on the leaderboard. Falls in round 2. The metagame deck playing against an off-meta deck in this 5-color Domain Zoo deck, and got whooped. All those burn spells going face. The Cascade into fair stuff made the counter spells look pretty bad. And you gotta imagine that he's sitting there thinking, maybe I should have played Murktide.
And yeah, you really, the tail of the tape there is, sometimes if you go too hard trying to metagame, you end up leveling yourself. And those Cascade cards, very, very good against a control strategy. I've also got to think, maybe Ryan's going to rethink not using a counterspell on the Bloodbraid Elf.
Yeah.
That could have saved him some life and maybe given him time to stabilize, but he was still in a rough spot. That double Cascade from Max with the Bloodbraid Elf into the Shardless Agent was, really critical. Just generated so much card advantage and so much board presence to put pressure on Ryan's life total.